Hello guys, Logan here, and sorry if I sound a bit sick today. I'm having a bit of a cold today, so yeah. But today I'm going to talk about SpongeBob. Now SpongeBob for quite a while was my favorite cartoon. Until I started watching Cartoon Network. Anyway, hold on a sec. Anywho, yeah. SpongeBob has had some really phenomenal episodes, especially from the pre-movie seasons, which are seasons 1 through 3. But there's been some really good episodes in post-movie SpongeBob, especially in seasons 4 and 5. Yeah, I'm going to talk about them today in my top 5 best post-movie SpongeBob episodes in seasons 4 and 5. Now, if you don't like these episodes, that's fine. It's my personal opinion. And also, I will be including specials like Dungeons and Dragons and Have You Seen the Snail? Anyway, let's get down to it. Number 5. Dungeons and Dragons. Now, I find this to be a very entertaining special. Basically, SpongeBob and Patrick go to a jousting competition, unknowingly seeing that they're the combatants, and then during the accident, they get transported into ancient times, and they meet the ancient version of some of their friends, like Mr. Krabs and Squidward. Oh, and Squidward appears to be the town's goofball, which is really surprising. Have Pearl, which is the princess, or something, and basically Plankton attempts to destroy the town, including the bowling alley, where Squidward explains a musical number. But to be honest, the reason why I'm not talking too much in detail is because I haven't seen this episode in such a long time. I really want to see it again. But if Nickelodeon wants to not show any more of most of SpongeBob's special anymore in favor of their live team sitcoms, that's fine. It's not like I'm the one that's creating the schedules. Anyway, I think I should get into number 4. And number 4 is going to be Roller Cowards. Now, in pre-movie SpongeBob, probably the most relatable episode would probably be Sailor Mouth, because it's about cursing. But in this episode, it revolves around the fear of amusement park rides. Basically, SpongeBob and Patrick see this commercial for Love World where there's going to be a new attraction called the Fist o' Pain. Now, they want to go see it, but SpongeBob ends up having a nightmare and he doesn't want to ride it. Then Patrick comes back to take SpongeBob to the bus, and later we actually find out that Patrick is afraid to go on the ride as well. So first they find out that there's a very long line, so they decided to ride some of the kiddie rides to make the ride better somehow. And they end up crying so loudly on a kiddie ride while there's an infant on the ride as well, and he's not saying a thing, which I found really funny. And then later, while they're in the line, they see an injured old man going through the exit of the ride. So they think it's from the ride, but it's actually because he has a serious health condition which prevents him from going on the ride, even though it's his birthday. And then there's the sequence where SpongeBob and Patrick try to convince themselves that they're not scared of it in really funny ways. SpongeBob talks to an ice cream cone, which proceeds to beat SpongeBob up. And then Patrick talks to his reflection in an argument, which ends with Patrick laying his reflection out. Then they finally ride it, and at first they're really scared the whole ride through. But then when it's done, they realize that they conquered their fear and are not afraid of the ride anymore. Yeah, this episode is really funny. I definitely recommend watching it. And for number 3, Skill Crane. Now, I was skeptical about putting this one on the list, considering it's put next to one of the worst episodes of SpongeBob's history. But I decided to let it slide and put it on the list anyway. Basically, Mr. Krabs puts in a skill crane, and then he gives Squidward and SpongeBob quarters to do it once, and then Squidward tries it. He gets pretty egotistical after he almost does it on his first try. And then SpongeBob appears to be a crane master. And that leads to Squidward getting addicted to trying to win. And Mr. Krabs feeding his addiction in the best ways possible. Now, you may think this is cruel of Mr. Krabs, but I mean, I think it is kind of cruel, but he's just taking. But I think it's just Mr. Krabs wanting to take Squidward's addiction to his advantage. And that ultimately works out. But after multiple times of failing, SpongeBob teaches Squidward the technique of how to win the skill crane. And no, I'm not talking about the technique of bubble blowing. Anyway, after Squidward finally does beat the skill crane, he goes completely nuts. I mean, he starts rubbing it in everyone's face after he wins once. I mean, SpongeBob hasn't not beaten a single skill crane. And you don't see him rubbing it in everyone's face. And then Squidward uses a real crane and destroys a construction site, which leads to the construction workers preparing to beat him up. And to be honest, Squidward kind of deserves that. And then when SpongeBob tries to help, he ends the episode with this: I guess I can only pick up toys. Anyway, let's get to number 2. I'm going to try to do this one quickly because I'm starting to run out of time. Anyway, number 2 would have to be Krusty Towers. Now, believe it or not, this was originally supposed to be in Season 3. But it got cut back to Season 4. And I can perfectly see why. This one is hilarious involves Mr. Krabs getting his comeuppance and Squidward getting his revenge. So basically after Mr. Krabs goes to a hotel and seeing how expensive it is, he realizes how much money he can make by making his own hotel called Krusty Towers. And basically, when Patrick shows up, Mr. Krabs works Squidward. I mean, seriously, he's making Squidward do the dirty work while SpongeBob is barely doing anything. And I forgot to mention the plaque. We shall never deny a guest, even the most ridiculous request. Yeah, just so you know, it's gonna come back to bite Mr. Krabs in the butt a little later. Anyway, after about 4 minutes of Squidward having to do all the dirty work because Mr. Krabs said that he would take care of Patrick's needs, Squidward quits and becomes a customer, and then uses the plaque against Mr. Krabs, and after a while, it ends up in the whole thing, the whole Krusty Tower being destroyed. Yeah. Now, I do kind of feel bad for Mr. Krabs because I feel like he was actually working, he was being worked harder than Squidward was. He completely deserved it. Now, before I get to number 1, I want to list a few quick honorable mentions. The Lost Mattress. Now, I do really like this episode. It's a really funny episode, and I definitely recommend it, but I didn't want to do a top 10 list because it would just be too long. But if this was a top 10, I would definitely include it. And then my other honorable mention would have to be Shell of a Man. Now, to be honest, I find this to be a really good episode as well. The same thing as The Lost Mattress, though I just think a top 10 list would be too long. So, with those said, let's get to number 1. And the number 1 best post-movie SpongeBob episodes from seasons 4 and 5 is Have You Seen the Snail? Now, there really is no other choice. This episode has clever writing, a great not a great song, a phenomenal song. It's an episode in post-movie SpongeBob where Patrick is likable. It has a lot of funny moments. Maybe it doesn't really have a lot of funny moments, but it's still a heart-wrenching episode in all the right ways. And the song, I really wish I could show the song, but unfortunately I don't have enough time. But if you do want to check out the song for yourself, it's called Gary Come Home. Now that's probably one of my favorite SpongeBob songs, if not my personal favorite. But it just keeps on fading away from me since I haven't seen this episode in quite a while. I really wish that SpongeBob would show their specials more often. Well, I do really like post-movie SpongeBob episodes. They do have some really nice ones, but they can also have some really bad ones. So, I do like seasons 4 and 5, so